Chapter 1. Whispers of a Red Horizon. You close your eyes and feel the soft expanse of space stretching infinitely around you. It is a gentle silence, not empty, but filled with a quiet breath, the faint hum of distant stars vibrating softly through your imagination. Mars waits ahead, a small red lantern suspended in the dark, glowing faintly, as if breathing in its own slow rhythm. You drift toward it, weightless and unhurried, feeling the gentle pull of its presence like a delicate hand guiding you through a cosmic lullaby. Every moment here is elongated. Seconds fold over themselves like soft, translucent waves. You notice how the distance between planets feels less like a measure of space and more like a rhythm, a slow unfolding, each heartbeat of the universe resonating gently with your own. You imagine the probe, Three-Eye Atlas, gliding silently through this void, a tiny sentinel tracing a path that has been set with precision and care, following trajectories calculated years ago. Its journey is calm, methodical, almost like the slow opening of a flower in a meadow. The surface of Mars flickers through your mind in bursts of imagination. Rust-colored plains stretching under thin, wispy clouds of dust. Valleys carved over eons, whispering of ancient rivers that once lingered and flowed with patience. You sense the stillness that envelops the planet, a patient quiet that seems to watch and wait, not unlike your own mind when it drifts toward sleep. Each crater and ridge is a soft imprint of history, waiting to be felt, imagined, and understood. As you float, your mind notices the silence of the cosmos. It is not empty, but vibrant in subtle ways. Invisible particles drift past you, glancing off the probe in imperceptible brushes. Solar wind flows like a slow stream, carrying energy and light that dances along the edges of the probe's metallic frame. You imagine the tiny vibrations, the soft communication between instruments, the exchange of data that is invisible yet intimate. Even in the void, there is a language of movement, of cause and effect, of gentle interaction. Time itself seems to slow as you approach Mars. You imagine it unfolding layer by layer, each rotation revealing new shadows and subtle shifts in light. The red planet feels alive in its quiet persistence, a companion to your imagination. You picture the curvature of its horizon, the distant glow of sunlight glancing off dust particles in the thin atmosphere. Even from millions of kilometers away, you feel a connection, as if the planet's slow breath matches your own. Your mind drifts toward the idea of the mission's purpose. This probe carries instruments that will see Mars in ways you cannot, measuring temperatures, analyzing minerals, and mapping the delicate topography of its surface. You imagine data trickling back across the vast distance, packets of knowledge arriving like whispers from a distant friend. Each signal is soft, but filled with meaning, a gentle handshake across space. You feel the excitement of discovery, tempered by the calm patience of science. The darkness around Mars deepens, punctuated by the soft glimmer of distant stars. You imagine tracing constellations with your mind, connecting dots of light like pearls strung across velvet. The cosmos feels intimate here, not overwhelming, each star a quiet companion in the journey. The red planet floats, suspended between distant suns, a gentle anchor in the vastness. You feel the slow pull of its gravity reaching out, subtle, almost imperceptible, nudging your imagination forward, guiding the probe and your thoughts alike. You notice the stillness of human presence too. Control rooms on Earth are quiet at this hour, operators and scientists resting, leaving the instruments to speak for themselves. You imagine the hum of electronics in the darkened halls, the faint glow of screens, the soft pulse of communication lines. Even in this human silence, there is a living presence, a network of intention and curiosity stretching across the planet to reach this distant lantern. The world holds its breath with you, sharing the calm anticipation of what will come next. Your attention drifts again to Mars itself. You imagine the rust-colored plains shimmering in soft, diffuse light. Shadows stretch across craters, smoothing into gentle gradients, as if the planet itself is exhaling slowly. You feel the history embedded in every ridge, every valley, every whisper of dust lifted by invisible winds. It is a quiet story, one that unfolds without urgency, inviting you to linger, to imagine, to rest in the knowledge that some things are vast, patient, and eternal. The probe glides closer in your mind, and you picture its instruments extending their awareness, sensing details invisible to human eyes. You imagine the soft hum of sensors, measuring light, composition, magnetic fields, each pulse a gentle song of understanding. The machine moves with purpose, yet there is a rhythm to its motion that feels almost organic, a slow, meditative awareness of the space it traverses. You sense its trajectory, like a line drawn softly across a canvas, steady and deliberate. Time bends softly in your thoughts. You feel moments stretch and fold, as though the universe itself breathes with you. The silence is full, resonant with possibilities. You notice the small twinkling of distant stars, each one a reminder that space is not empty, but alive in subtle, intricate ways. Your mind feels the gentle tug of curiosity, a soft invitation to follow Mars deeper into its secrets. As your attention lingers on the red horizon, you feel a sense of slow anticipation. The journey has begun, and yet the planet waits patiently, allowing discovery to unfold gently. You imagine the first signals of contact, the quiet acknowledgement of presence between machine and world. The expanse is infinite, and your thoughts float freely within it, guided by the subtle gravity of imagination and the calm certainty that exploration continues. The red lantern hangs ahead, serene and patient, calling your mind softly, and you drift closer, carried by curiosity and calm, ready to sense the quiet heartbeat of a world waiting to reveal itself, while the human and the mechanical pause together in reverent anticipation. Chapter 2: A Silent NASA. You drift in the quiet of space, feeling the soft, invisible threads that connect Mars and Earth. The control rooms where human hands once guided every movement now rest in gentle stillness. Screens glow faintly in the darkness, casting pools of soft light that ripple across empty floors. Chairs sit quietly, waiting for the next shift of operators, but for now, they are like sentinels in a world holding its breath. You imagine the hum of computers as a slow, steady pulse, almost like a heartbeat, bridging the distance between your mind and the distant red planet. The instruments aboard 3i Atlas respond to the calm, gliding across space with precision. You sense their delicate awareness as they tilt sensors, adjust cameras, and measure subtle magnetic fields. Every movement is quiet, purposeful, like a dancer tracing invisible patterns in a darkened room. Even in silence, the probe communicates, sending data back to Earth in soft pulses, each one a whisper, traveling across millions of kilometers. You imagine these signals as letters of curiosity, arriving in slow, deliberate rhythm, carrying stories of light, dust, and gravity. The world beyond the control rooms mirrors this quiet. Outside, the sky stretches deep and endless, stars scattered like gentle sparks of thought. Your mind traces their patterns, following constellations and hidden alignments, letting the vastness of space settle like a soft blanket over your awareness. You feel the contrast between the immense silence of the cosmos and the intimate hum of the probe's instruments, a delicate balance between vastness and attention. Time seems to expand here, stretching seconds into a calm continuum where observation and reflection coexist effortlessly. You notice the subtle choreography of human and machine, even in absence. On Earth, technicians rest, leaving systems to their own quiet functions. The probe continues along its path, as though aware of the patient pause, moving with the grace of practiced habit. You imagine each instrument extending its perception into the void, sensing light that has traveled for minutes, minutes that feel like centuries in your imagination. Each measurement becomes a soft touch, a gentle brushing against the unknown, and you feel the tender care embedded in every calculation. The red planet grows slightly larger in your mind's eye. You sense its gravity beginning to reach out, the pull subtle but steady, coaxing the probe forward with invisible hands. You imagine the navigation systems adjusting ever so slightly, sensors whispering to one another, aligning pathways with precision. The silence around them is almost reverent, a shared meditation between technology and the universe. Each adjustment feels like a soft exhale, a gentle reassurance that the journey continues, unhurried yet inexorably forward. Your thoughts wander to the concept of human patience. You imagine the scientists who designed this mission, who waited for years while trajectories were calculated, risks assessed, and contingencies imagined. Their absence now does not diminish their presence. Instead, it magnifies the quiet intimacy of the moment. You feel the care of unseen hands, their curiosity carried across space in the form of circuits and sensors. In this calm, you understand that exploration is not only measured in movement, but in attention, in the ability to observe with soft, deliberate focus. You imagine the probe communicating in ways you cannot hear. Tiny electric pulses, modulations of magnetic fields, adjustments of orientation that carry meaning across the void. Each movement is small, almost imperceptible, yet collectively they trace a story of navigation, of attention, of gentle perseverance. You feel this narrative as a quiet resonance, a meditation on precision and patience. It is the soft rhythm of knowledge moving steadily through space, carrying both expectation and serenity. Outside your mind, the stars stretch endlessly, their light bending softly around your thoughts. You notice the interplay of illumination and shadow, the subtle difference between planets and moons, the faint glimmer of distant asteroids that drift silently along orbital paths. The probe glides past them with unhurried grace, measuring, sensing, recording. You sense the connection between observation and understanding, a calm bridge from curiosity to comprehension. The act of watching becomes a soft, immersive experience, blending science and meditation. You feel the anticipation of signals yet to arrive. Each pulse from the probe is a reminder that distance does not diminish presence, that communication does not need sound to be intimate. You imagine waiting for these messages, feeling the same quiet suspense that the scientists on Earth feel. The cosmos seems to hold a breath with you, the empty spaces filled with gentle potential. You float in this awareness, noting the contrast between the silent mission control and the purposeful activity of the probe, and you begin to understand the delicate dance of observation. The red horizon of Mars lingers ahead, soft and patient, and you imagine the first whispers of contact, the probe scanning, measuring, feeling its way across unfamiliar terrain. Every subtle adjustment, every tiny transmission carries the weight of centuries of human curiosity, yet it is delivered with the lightness of a feather floating through the void. You feel the blend of wonder and tranquility, the quiet thrill of knowing that discovery is imminent, yet the moment remains unhurried, filled with soft anticipation. And in this pause, you sense that the real exploration has already begun, not in hurried signals or loud announcements, but in the calm, meditative awareness of presence, both human and mechanical, reaching toward the distant, waiting red planet. The silence carries meaning, a gentle prelude to the awakening of instruments that will soon see Mars in ways the human eye cannot yet imagine. Chapter 3, Three-Eye Atlas Awakens. You imagine the probe lying in quiet orbit, its systems dormant for much of the journey, like a traveler resting before dawn. And now, slowly, softly, it stirs. Circuits hum to life with the gentlest pulse, as if greeting the vast empty space around it. Sensors extend and awaken like eyelids opening after a long, deep sleep, revealing shapes and shadows that have waited patiently for observation. You sense the machine's awareness emerging, mechanical yet almost sentient in its quiet attentiveness. Each subsystem speaks in gentle vibrations, transmitting a chorus of soft signals that ripple through the emptiness toward Mars. You feel the warmth of the electronics spreading across the probe, not abrupt or jarring, but like a sun slowly climbing over the horizon. Light touches metallic surfaces, glinting softly and reflecting across instruments designed to see beyond what human eyes can perceive. Cameras, spectrometers, magnetometers all begin their silent vigil, scanning with patient attention, tracing the contours of a world that is both alien and familiar in your imagination. You imagine the first images forming, pixels of red and gold, valleys and ridges slowly emerging like watercolor impressions on a vast canvas. The probe senses, in its quiet way, the subtle magnetic whispers of Mars, feeling the planet's invisible currents and hidden pulses. You feel this as a gentle vibration beneath your own awareness, a subtle reminder that the universe is alive in patterns, forces, and energies beyond ordinary perception. Each reading is a soft brush of understanding, a measured gesture toward knowledge. You imagine the delicate calibration, the instruments adjusting to the rhythm of Mars itself, learning the contours of its surface as carefully as a painter tracing lines on paper. As Three-Eye Atlas awakens fully, its cameras swivel and tilt, scanning the horizon with precise patience. You imagine it capturing the red dust of ancient plains, the outlines of craters that have endured for billions of years, the fading traces of water etched into rock. You feel a quiet awe at this observation, as though the probe itself is pausing to contemplate the beauty of the landscapes it records. There is no hurry, only the slow, deliberate act of perception. Every rotation, every sensor reading becomes a rhythm, a meditative pulse in which the probe and the planet share a soft understanding. You consider the data flowing outward, traveling across the void back to Earth. Each packet carries with it the quiet intention of the probe, a translation of its mechanical vision into human knowledge. You imagine scientists on Earth receiving these signals, decoding them with patient care, connecting each pulse to images and measurements, building a narrative of Mars that unfolds in slow, deliberate patterns. Even from millions of kilometers away, there is intimacy in this exchange, a shared breath between machine, planet, and human imagination. The probe senses subtle changes in light as Mars rotates beneath it. Shadows lengthen across craters, stretching like silk ribbons across valleys. You imagine the delicate adjustments made by the instruments to capture these gradients, recording temperature variations, mineral compositions, and faint traces of ancient water. Each measurement is a whisper from the planet itself, and you feel the profound stillness in which these messages travel. The probe listens patiently, its awakening a gentle echo of curiosity and understanding that spans the silent gulf between worlds. You notice how the probe's movements seem almost organic. Thrusters fire briefly to maintain trajectory. Micro adjustments that are precise and soft, like a bird balancing in a gentle wind. You imagine the careful orchestration of its components, all working together as a quiet symphony of technology. Each adjustment, each data transmission, is a meditation on accuracy and patience. You feel the slow accumulation of knowledge as comforting, like stacking stones in a gentle pattern, each layer a small step toward a larger understanding. Time feels stretched as the probe maps the first glimpses of Mars. You see the surface unfolding, a slow revelation of colors and textures, rusty plains that shimmer softly, valleys that seem to breathe, distant horizons blurring into hazy light. You sense the vastness and the minuteness at the same time, the grandeur of a planet and the delicate detail of its textures. Your mind drifts over each ridge, each ancient crater, imagining the stories embedded in rock and dust. In the probe's patient observation, there is a meditation on the persistence of time, a gentle reminder that everything unfolds at its own pace. You imagine the subtle temperature shifts, the quiet patterns of dust moving across plains, and the slow rise and fall of light as the sun arcs above distant horizons. The probe captures all this, each measurement a tender translation of Mars into human understanding. You feel the intimacy of observation, the calm connection that emerges when curiosity is exercised with care and attention. Each new piece of information is a soft pulse in the mind, a gentle expansion of awareness that does not hurry but invites reflection. And as the probe settles into full awareness, scanning and measuring with gentle precision, you feel a rhythm developing, a quiet cadence of discovery that stretches across space and time. It is a rhythm you can feel in your own mind, a soft, meditative beat that carries you forward. You know that more wonders lie ahead, that Mars still holds secrets waiting for patient exploration, and that the solar wind and gravitational dance will soon invite you into another, even gentler layer of this journey. Chapter 4. Riding the Solar Wind. You imagine yourself drifting alongside Three-Eye Atlas, weightless and untethered, riding an invisible river of solar wind. It is a gentle current, composed of charged particles streaming from the sun, brushing against the probe like a soft, invisible breeze. You feel the subtle push of energy, a tender nudge that carries the craft forward without urgency. There is a rhythm to this movement, slow and calming, as if the universe itself is breathing, and you are a quiet passenger in its exhale. The solar wind hums with quiet vitality. Though you cannot see it, you sense its presence in every gentle sway, every imperceptible shift of the probe's trajectory. It brushes past instruments and antennas, a delicate touch that is both playful and purposeful. You imagine particles glancing off the probe's surfaces, scattering softly, like tiny sparks of light that disappear almost as soon as they appear. Each contact is fleeting, yet it contributes to the steady, meditative dance of movement through the void. Mars lies ahead, glowing faintly in the dark, and the solar wind seems to ripple around it, almost caressing its surface. You picture how it shapes the thin atmosphere, teasing dust into soft clouds that drift lazily across rusty plains. You imagine the gentle pressure of these currents as a lullaby for the planet, whispering over valleys, brushing the edges of craters, tracing the contours of ancient riverbeds. The red planet feels alive under these invisible touches, serene and patient, waiting for your mind to notice its quiet motion. You reflect on the intimacy of this journey. The probe is carried along by forces invisible to the naked eye, guided by energies that have traveled from the sun across millions of kilometers. You feel a sense of unity with the cosmos, a gentle awareness that even the smallest currents carry significance. The particles themselves become companions, brushing softly against your imagination, teasing curiosity and inviting contemplation. Each moment of motion is a meditation on subtle cause and effect, on the beauty of quiet influence. The sun's warmth, carried faintly through these invisible winds, reaches your mind like a soft glow. You imagine photons and particles traveling together, forming a delicate tapestry of energy that nourishes and moves. The probe absorbs these whispers, instruments recording their strength, their direction, their variation. You sense the precision of these measurements, the patience required to observe without interference, and you find a soft reflection of your own breathing within this rhythm. You notice the gentle interactions between the solar wind and the magnetic field surrounding Mars. Invisible lines bend and twist, forming a slow, undulating dance that is imperceptible to the human eye, but recorded faithfully by instruments. You imagine these currents tracing delicate loops, wrapping the planet in a quiet embrace. You feel the grace in their motion, a calm choreography that mirrors your own thoughts as they drift, unhurried, through space and imagination alike. Time seems suspended as you glide in this current. The probe's trajectory is steady, a soft arc across the emptiness. You imagine each second stretching outward, elongated into a soft ribbon of awareness. The gentle push of the wind blends seamlessly with the quiet gravity of Mars in the distance, guiding the probe closer without abruptness or hurry. You feel a meditative alignment, a connection between motion, distance, and observation, as though the universe itself is conducting a slow, deliberate symphony. You think of the particles themselves, born from the sun, racing across space for minutes or hours, each one carrying a tiny piece of cosmic energy. They brush past the probe and vanish into infinity, their path untraceable yet meaningful. You imagine the subtle messages they deliver, carrying information about solar activity, magnetic fields, and the quiet pulse of the cosmos. Each interaction is soft, fleeting, and profound, a reminder that even the smallest elements of the universe contribute to a vast, interconnected whole. The probe drifts closer to Mars, tracing invisible lines of energy as it moves. You feel the gentle tug of the planet's gravity now, blending with the caress of the solar wind to guide the instruments toward careful observation. Shadows lengthen across distant valleys, dust swirls lazily in the faint breeze, and the probe's cameras begin to sense patterns of color and texture that will soon unfold into detailed maps. You sense the harmony in these overlapping forces, a slow, gentle dialogue between energy, mass, and space itself. And as you float alongside, carried by invisible currents, you feel a calm intimacy with the journey. The universe seems alive, not loud or overwhelming, but tender, patient, and infinitely detailed. The probe rides these gentle winds with quiet awareness, preparing to bring Mars into sharper focus. You sense that the red planet will soon reveal its subtle shapes, ancient histories, and slow, enduring rhythms, waiting for your mind to linger, observe, and follow. Chapter 5. The Red Planet Revealed. You drift closer now, carried by gentle momentum, and the surface of Mars begins to unfold beneath the probe like a slowly opening painting. The red plains stretch endlessly, tinged with soft ochre and russet shades that shimmer under the sun's gentle touch. Shadows slide across craters and valleys, elongated in the low-angle light, tracing shapes that hint at ancient flows of water and the slow, persistent sculpting by wind and dust. You feel the planet's presence as a quiet, patient companion, a steady observer of time itself. The probe glides over wide plains where dust has settled for millions of years, forming subtle textures that ripple across the landscape. You imagine the fine grains lifting occasionally in faint currents, swirling lazily before settling again, a silent dance that no human eye can fully witness. Each ridge, each depression, each delicate slope carries a story written over billions of years, a story the instruments are beginning to read. You feel the weight of this history gently pressing into your imagination, not heavy, not urgent, but softly, insistently, like a lullaby that asks you to linger. Valleys stretch beneath you, carved slowly by rivers that no longer flow. You picture them as ancient fingers, tracing paths through rock and soil, etching their memories into the crust of the planet. There is a quiet majesty here, in the patient persistence of time and the soft traces left by forces that no longer exist. You imagine standing at the edge of a canyon in your mind, peering down into depths sculpted over eons, feeling the stillness settle in your chest as though you too are part of this vast, unhurried narrative. The probe's cameras and sensors move gently, capturing colors and textures invisible from afar. You imagine light reflecting off iron-rich soil, dust particles suspended like golden motes in thin air. Shadows shift subtly with the sun, highlighting the contours of hills and craters. You sense a soft intimacy with the planet as the instruments trace its surface, translating physical reality into digital whispers that will travel across millions of kilometers. Each image, each measurement is a quiet message, a patient dialogue between human curiosity and the enduring, ancient planet beneath. You think of the dust storms that occasionally sweep across these plains, tiny tempests that reshape the surface imperceptibly over decades. You feel the contrast between this slow, deliberate change and the immediacy of your own awareness. The probe is there to witness, to measure, to translate, and you imagine the gentle rhythm of observation. Pause, capture, move, repeat. There is no rush, no urgency, only the steady accumulation of understanding, like droplets of water collecting into a quiet stream of knowledge. Craters emerge beneath the probe's gaze, some wide and shallow, others deep and jagged, relics of impacts long past. You sense the echo of those collisions, not as violence, but as soft imprints left in rock, reminders of the cosmic forces that shape every planet. You imagine peering into a crater's depths, tracing the shadows along its slopes, noticing subtle color variations that hint at mineral compositions, layers of history preserved in silent witness. Each observation becomes a gentle meditation on time, causality, and endurance. Ancient riverbeds appear, their dry channels winding across plains as if frozen mid-flow. You trace them slowly with your mind's eye, imagining water moving across them billions of years ago, shaping rock and sediment, nurturing possibilities for life that never arrived. You feel the passage of time stretching out, a calm expanse in which beginnings and endings blur softly together. The probe measures these channels with precision, recording their contours, angles, and compositions, translating them into knowledge without disturbing their quiet dignity. The light changes gradually, and you notice the soft gradients that smooth over valleys and ridges. The horizon curves gently, fading into haze, and distant mountains rise like quiet guardians. You imagine the thin atmosphere filtering sunlight, casting muted, warm tones across plains and craters alike. Everything is deliberate and serene, the slow unfolding of a world revealed without urgency, full of subtle stories and silent lessons. You feel yourself breathing in rhythm with this calm exposure, letting curiosity and wonder expand gently within. You notice subtle color shifts, hints of darker mineral deposits, variations in dust tone, and faint traces of frost in shaded depressions. Each observation is small, yet collectively they paint a vast tapestry of history, chemistry, and environmental change. The probe's instruments interpret these cues, sending their careful measurements back toward Earth, carrying fragments of knowledge like tiny lanterns across the darkness of space. You imagine receiving these glimpses and holding them gently in your mind, feeling the quiet thrill of discovery balanced by the soft patience of careful observation. And as the probe moves onward, tracing paths across plains, valleys, and ancient riverbeds, you feel a sense of calm intimacy with Mars. The planet's surface reveals itself slowly, thoughtfully, and you sense that there is more to learn, more to feel, more to imagine. The quiet history of the red planet stretches out before you, patient and enduring, waiting for the next chapter of observation, carried on subtle currents of light and energy. Chapter 6. Gravity's Tender Grip. You drift closer to Mars, feeling a quiet shift in the motion of the probe. The invisible hand of gravity begins to tug softly, almost imperceptibly at first, like the gentle pull of a tide against the shoreline of your imagination. You sense this force in every particle, in every subtle movement, a patient reminder that nothing moves entirely freely in the universe. The probe glides through space, carried not only by momentum, but by this delicate embrace, adjusting its trajectory without fanfare or haste. The pull is tender, yet inevitable. You imagine the probe tilting slightly, thrusters nudging it into alignment, and sensors recording every subtle adjustment. Each micro-correction is a whisper, a quiet conversation between machine and planet. You feel the rhythm of this interaction, a soft cadence that mirrors the slow rise and fall of your own breath. The universe seems to guide, not command, a subtle cooperation, rather than forceful insistence. Mars's gravity extends far beyond its surface, invisible yet present, shaping the path of the probe as it draws closer. You picture magnetic and gravitational fields intertwining in a slow, deliberate dance, an unseen choreography that guides every motion. The probe's instruments sense these shifts, tiny variations in trajectory and acceleration, recording the gentle tug and release as data points that will later tell a story of interaction, precision, and balance. You feel yourself attuned to this pull, your mind softening with the rhythm. Each adjustment of the probe becomes a meditation on patience and responsiveness. You imagine the slow arc of descent, the way forces combine and cancel, the careful management of momentum as Mars asserts its presence. The planet is firm but gentle, a teacher of subtlety, showing that even immense forces can move with grace and quiet. Weightlessness begins to give way to a sense of direction, an orientation toward the planet's center. You feel a slow shift in perspective, as if your body is floating in a current of invisible guidance. The probe glides along its path, responding seamlessly to this tug. You imagine the delicate alignment of thrusters, the careful timing of adjustments, each movement measured in milliseconds but carrying immense consequence. It is a ballet conducted across millions of kilometers, and you are present in its silent poetry. The surface of Mars grows more distinct, the red plains and ancient valleys stretching beneath the probe. Shadows deepen in craters, revealing subtle gradients of terrain. You feel the gravity shaping the path, drawing the probe along curves that align with the contours of the planet. Every shift is small, almost imperceptible, yet cumulative, guiding instruments closer to the secrets of this patient world. You notice how the invisible pull influences not only position, but timing, creating a slow rhythm that the probe follows naturally. You imagine the probe as a dancer, each thruster and sensor a limb moving in harmony with unseen forces. Gravity is both partner and guide, pulling and releasing in gentle cycles. You feel the elegance in this invisible conversation, the careful balance that allows motion to be precise yet fluid. The planet's pull is steady, consistent, unwavering, teaching a meditation on patience and respect for the subtleties of interaction. The probe's instruments adjust continuously, measuring acceleration, velocity, and orientation. Each micromeasurement is a tiny step toward understanding, a subtle acknowledgement of the quiet power at work. You imagine these calculations as a form of listening, a dialogue between the mechanical and the gravitational. Every moment is a quiet lesson in anticipation, response, and harmony, and you feel your own thoughts slowing, matching the deliberate pace of this interaction. Even the dust on Mars's surface seems aware of this rhythm, waiting for the soft descent of instruments to illuminate contours and patterns. You picture dust motes suspended in faint currents, swaying gently as if following the planet's subtle heartbeat. Shadows lengthen and shorten across valleys and ridges, a natural clock marking the passage of time. You sense the patient, enduring presence of the planet, teaching that every force, however immense, can operate in quiet synchrony with the cosmos. And as the probe continues to descend, guided by the tender pull, you feel a connection with the rhythm of Mars itself. The dance of gravity and momentum, push and pull, mirrors the pulse of your own breath, a soft meditation on balance and patience. You know that the planet's surface awaits, with stories etched into rock and soil, waiting for instruments and imagination alike to explore its quiet, enduring mysteries. Chapter 7. Echoes of Ancient Water. You drift above the red plains, and your mind follows the delicate traces of water that once shaped this planet. You imagine rivers winding through valleys, carving gentle channels that now lie dry, yet whisper their presence in the contours of rock and sediment. The probe's sensors glide over these ancient pathways, detecting subtle shifts in terrain, layers of mineral deposits, and the faint imprint of a past that has long ceased to flow. You sense the patient rhythm of time, and it soothes you, a reminder that the universe is vast and slow, and you are part of its quiet observation. The riverbeds are like delicate sketches etched into the planet's surface. You trace them in your mind, following curves and bends as though reading a forgotten language. Small tributaries converge into larger channels, hinting at storms long past, floods that reshaped valleys, and waters that lapped at rocks before receding into memory. You feel a soft intimacy with these forms, as if the land itself is sharing secrets gently, inviting curiosity without urgency. Each detail is subtle but persistent, a whisper across billions of years. You notice ancient sediment deposits along valley edges, imagining the ways water might have carried minerals and soil, leaving faint strata in its wake. You picture the probe scanning these layers, instruments recording density, composition, and variation. Each measurement becomes a soft brushstroke, painting a richer understanding of a world that once flowed with liquid. You feel a meditative calm, contemplating how small interactions accumulate over time, shaping landscapes with patience and grace. Shadows fall across dried riverbeds, emphasizing their subtle depth. You imagine sunlight glancing off ancient rocks, highlighting ripples carved by currents that are no longer present. Even in their dryness, the channels feel alive in your mind's eye, carrying echoes of motion, energy, and persistence. You feel your breath align with this rhythm, slow and deliberate, as you drift over plains and valleys, sensing the enduring presence of the forces that shape them. The probe's instruments detect faint mineral patterns that hint at water's former passage. You imagine iron oxides glinting softly in sunlight, clays formed in calm pools, salts left behind by evaporation. Each reading is a gentle fingerprint of a long-gone river, a story frozen in place for billions of years. You feel connected to this quiet history, imagining the hands of time stretching out, slow and patient, weaving a narrative that is almost imperceptible yet profound. You picture the valleys widening into plains, the channels becoming subtle depressions, hints of paths followed by water long vanished. Your imagination drifts over ridges and mesas, picturing how water would have carved and polished rock, how seasonal changes shaped the landscape, how subtle flows created patterns that endure. You sense a calm persistence in the planet, a quiet reminder that even in apparent stillness, the Earth, or Mars, remembers. Each formation is a meditation on memory, continuity, and gentle endurance. The probe hovers above craters that may once have been lakes. You imagine the still waters, reflecting sunlight, smoothing sediments, preserving traces of life that might have been. Even without life, the patterns of erosion speak to patience, repetition, and resilience. You feel your thoughts slow, following the rhythm of these imagined currents, tracing lines of history that stretch across time and space. Each observation, though distant, becomes a shared reflection with the planet, a quiet dialogue in which attention itself is a form of care. You notice small ridges along the channels, remnants of banks that once contained flowing water. You imagine seasonal floods swelling these channels, lapping gently against rocks, carrying sediments, leaving subtle marks that survive the eons. The probe measures every slope, every twist, translating the topography into knowledge, yet preserving the soft poetry of natural formation. You sense that understanding can be quiet, patient, and respectful. not rushed by urgency, but unfolding slowly like a gentle meditation. As you drift over the valleys, imagining the touch of water long gone, you feel a profound calm. Mars seems almost familiar, its history echoing softly in your mind. You realize that even in its stillness, the planet carries motion within its memory, rhythms, frozen yet palpable, waiting for instruments and imagination to bring them to life. You feel a sense of continuity between your own attention and the ancient forces shaping the planet, a soft thread connecting mind and landscape. And as the probe moves onward, tracing dry riverbeds and ancient channels, you sense the stories these valleys hold, tales of persistence, change, and quiet endurance. The water is gone, but its memory remains, shaping your understanding, softening your awareness, and preparing you to feel the warmth of distant suns touching Mars next. Chapter 8. The Glow of Distant Suns. You drift above the Martian plains, and the sun begins to stretch its light across the landscape, soft and deliberate. You imagine beams falling at a gentle angle, brushing craters and ridges with a golden hue. Shadows lengthen slowly, stretching across valleys and mesas, emphasizing every subtle rise and dip. There is no rush in this illumination, only a quiet unfolding, a slow revelation of contours that have slept in muted tones until now. You feel a gentle warmth in your imagination, a reminder that even across millions of kilometers, light can carry comfort and clarity. The probe's sensors capture this subtle glow, translating wavelengths and intensities into a tapestry of perception. You imagine each instrument observing carefully, measuring the angle of light and the depth of shadow, recording details invisible to the naked eye. You sense the intimacy of this act, a quiet attention that mirrors your own awareness as you imagine following the sun's path across the Martian surface. Light becomes more than illumination. It is a gentle brush across history, highlighting ridges carved by wind, valleys etched by ancient water, plains dusted with fine iron-rich soil. As the sun moves, the color of Mars shifts subtly. You notice warmer tones along ridge crests, cooler shadows in valleys, delicate gradations across plains. You feel a calm rhythm in this progression, the slow, almost meditative change of light and shadow. You imagine the planet itself breathing in response, the surfaces shifting subtly under sunlight, temperature differences rising and falling in a quiet cycle. You sense an intimate connection with these subtle changes, a soft reflection of your own awareness of warmth, light, and space. Distant horizons blur into hazy red, softening edges where mountains meet sky. You imagine the glow of the sun touching these peaks, spilling down slopes, illuminating crevices that have remained in shadow for millennia. Even in emptiness, there is life in light, movement, reflection, nuance. You feel this radiance as a gentle meditation, noticing the way sunlight bends across the thin atmosphere, how shadows deepen and retreat, how colors merge and shift in soft harmony. The planet feels alive, not in motion, but in its quiet response to illumination. The probe captures sunlight, reflecting off dust particles, tiny motes that drift lazily in the thin Martian air. You imagine them shimmering softly, casting microshadows across plains and craters. Each glint of light is like a whispered story, a quiet narrative traveling across space to meet the instruments observing it. You feel a delicate intimacy in this exchange, the blending of motion, reflection, and perception into something meditative and serene. Light becomes a messenger, carrying both warmth and knowledge across the void. You drift along valleys where sunlight pools in soft sheets, highlighting textures previously hidden in shadow. You notice subtle striations in rock faces, traces of wind-swept sand, the gentle curves of ancient riverbeds. You feel the slow passage of time in these observations, a patient unfolding of history as it responds to the soft touch of solar rays. Even in its silence, Mars communicates through the interplay of light and surface, and you feel the tender connection of observing without rushing, letting the mind expand into quiet curiosity. As the sun continues its climb, shadows shorten and lengthen in a rhythm you imagine as a slow, meditative heartbeat. You sense the warmth of energy crossing space, touching every surface in subtle ways, illuminating textures and patterns with quiet insistence. The probe records these gentle changes, translating the play of light into measurements, wavelengths, and images. You imagine the data flowing back to Earth, each bit carrying a fragment of serenity and understanding, a quiet reminder that observation itself can be a form of reflection and presence. The interplay of sun and landscape feels almost musical. Light bends over ridges and valleys. Shadows dance across crater floors, and plains glow in muted orange and red tones. You imagine following this rhythm with your mind, noticing every subtle variation, every shift in intensity. The planet seems to pulse softly with illumination, responding to the sun's touch in patterns of light and shadow that are both timeless and gentle. You feel your own awareness syncing with this pulse, a meditative expansion of attention and calm. Even distant mountains and mesas catch the sun's glow, their slopes stretching softly across horizons. You imagine how the angle of light reveals textures imperceptible from afar, highlights the history embedded in rock, and illuminates features carved by wind, dust, and time. You sense the quiet intimacy of being present in this light, witnessing the slow dance of illumination and surface without haste, fully immersed in the calm, reflective beauty of another world. And as the sun's rays continue to stretch across Mars, you feel the warmth and illumination ripple gently into your imagination. The planet's surfaces glow in soft gradients. The valleys and craters whisper their stories, and you sense the quiet heartbeat of the solar system, reaching through instruments, data, and imagination alike. The red plains await your attention, ready for the next connection, as subtle signals begin to travel from probe to Earth, bridging silence with understanding. Chapter 9. Signals Between Worlds. You imagine the journey of a signal, a tiny pulse of energy crossing the silent expanse between Mars and Earth. Each packet of data carries a fragment of observation, a whispered letter from the probe traveling across millions of kilometers. You feel the delicacy of this communication, the way it threads a subtle connection between two worlds otherwise separated by vast emptiness. The signals are small, almost fragile, yet persistent, traveling with patient purpose across space, like a gentle heartbeat echoing in the void. The probe sends streams of information in rhythmic bursts. You imagine them moving invisibly through space, guided by the laws of physics and the careful engineering of human minds. Each pulse contains a story: light reflected from dust particles, temperatures measured across plains, contours of valleys, subtle shifts in magnetic fields. You sense the intimacy of these transmissions, as though the universe itself is confiding in you, translating Mars into language your mind can slowly, gently interpret. You think of the receiving stations on Earth, giant dishes tuned to catch the faint whispers of the probe. You imagine the technicians, long shadows under dim lights, carefully monitoring signals, listening for patterns, decoding the pulse of another planet. Each blink, each beep is transformed into knowledge, into a story that bridges the immense gap between worlds. You feel the quiet collaboration of human curiosity and mechanical precision, a shared meditation on patience and understanding. The signals travel at the speed of light, yet you imagine them lingering, as if stretching time just enough for you to notice their delicate rhythm. You sense the gap between sending and receiving as a quiet space of anticipation, a liminal zone where imagination fills in the contours of reality. Each bit of data is a fragment of Mars, a small, gentle story that reaches across the void, inviting you to pause, observe, and reflect. You feel the calm intimacy of this process, a bridge built not of sound or movement, but of quiet awareness. You picture individual photons carrying messages, dancing across space and slipping into receiving antennas. You imagine the subtle modulation of radio waves, encoding measurements of surface features, mineral compositions, and the faint traces of ancient rivers. Each pulse is precise and deliberate, yet almost musical in its regularity. You sense the elegance of this communication, a slow, patient conversation across distance and silence, connecting your awareness to the red planet in a meditative embrace. The probe continues to gather data as it glides along its path, recording textures, topography, and the faint shifts of light across plains and craters. Each observation is transformed into signals, and each signal carries the presence of Mars into human consciousness. You feel a delicate intimacy in this process, imagining the probe almost like a quiet envoy, translating alien landscapes into whispers of understanding, bringing them gently into your mind. You sense the vastness between worlds, the immense scale that separates observer and observed. Yet in this gap, there is intimacy. Each signal arrives like a small gift, a reminder that attention and curiosity can traverse distance. You feel yourself stretching across space with the probe, sensing the flow of information, the rhythm of data transmission, and the patience required to maintain connection. Each pulse becomes a meditation, a soft rhythm to follow, a bridge built of attention and thought. You imagine the patterns emerging from the signals, maps of craters, outlines of valleys, traces of dust swirls, hints of minerals. Each measurement is a gentle echo, a whisper of Mars's existence and persistence. You feel the beauty of this subtle translation, how knowledge emerges slowly, patiently, from the quiet, distant pulse of instruments and energy. The cosmos itself seems to breathe with this rhythm, carrying information not as noise, but as a soft, meditative song of discovery. The probe's communication becomes a dialogue, not with words, but with presence. You sense the quiet interplay between sender and receiver, an unspoken acknowledgement of distance and persistence. The faint signals traveling across the void carry with them the weight of observation, attention, and curiosity, and you feel the gentle significance of being part of this process, part of a meditation that spans millions of kilometers. And as you float alongside these tiny pulses, following their path from Mars to Earth, you sense the patience inherent in all exploration. Each signal is a soft reminder that understanding unfolds slowly, that knowledge is carried delicately across space and time. You feel a calm anticipation for what will arrive next, ready for the probe's careful observations to guide you toward the final moments of hovering just above Mars's surface. Chapter 10. The Pause. Before discovery. The probe hovers in quiet orbit, suspended just above the Martian surface, as though the planet itself is holding its breath along with you. You sense the stillness around it, the subtle tug of gravity balanced against the careful thrusts that keep it steady, suspended in the thin atmosphere like a leaf on the wind. The landscape stretches below, muted red plains punctuated by craters and ridges, each contour softened in the gentle light. You feel the calm intimacy of this pause, a moment where observation, curiosity, and anticipation all meet in perfect balance. The airless environment offers no sound, yet your imagination fills the silence with subtle whispers. You imagine faint vibrations traveling through the probe, tiny currents of energy signaling readiness, sensors alert but patient. Each instrument seems to breathe in rhythm with the planet, scanning without hurry, recording without demand. The stillness is profound, a meditation on the art of waiting, of presence, of noticing every detail without pushing or rushing. You feel yourself slowing with it, your mind and body aligning to the quiet pulse of exploration. Shadows stretch across valleys, emphasizing textures in rock and dust, and you imagine the probe's cameras tracing every contour, mapping the surface with patient precision. Even the smallest bumps, the tiniest dips, carry significance. Each measurement is a brushstroke on the canvas of understanding, a gentle revelation of a world that has endured for billions of years. You feel the weight of this moment, not heavy, but soft, like a lullaby, whispering that discovery is as much about waiting as it is about action. You notice how light shifts slowly over the landscape, highlighting ridges, casting valleys into muted shadow. The probe adjusts gently, balancing instruments and orientation, perfectly attuned to the rhythm of the planet below. You sense the subtle artistry in this pause, a quiet orchestration of forces, movement, and observation. Even in stillness, there is motion. Micro adjustments, energy readings, faint magnetic field fluctuations, all recorded and measured with care. The universe feels alive, but patient, offering its secrets only when attention is gentle and waiting is honored. The sense of anticipation grows, but it is soft, not urgent. You imagine the probe preparing to descend, instruments calibrating, sensors aligning, all actions precise and deliberate. Each tiny adjustment is a meditation, a moment of attention that allows the next stage to arrive gracefully. You feel the harmony between observer and observed, the quiet dialogue that exists before action, when the potential of exploration is at its most serene and intimate. You consider the vast distance that separates this moment from Earth. Signals travel across millions of kilometers, tiny pulses carrying instructions and confirmations. A quiet conversation, bridging the immense gulf. You feel a gentle connection to those distant listeners, a sense of shared curiosity and patience. Every pulse, every bit of data, is a whisper from one world to another, and you feel enveloped in this calm awareness, part of a vast, meditative exchange that is both personal and cosmic. The probe hovers over plains that hint at ancient histories, riverbeds, cratered surfaces, ridges, and valleys all waiting to be explored. You feel the weight of that history, not pressing, not demanding, but patiently present, inviting careful observation. Each feature is a story paused in time, a memory waiting for instruments and imagination alike to notice and translate it into understanding. You sense a quiet reverence in the act of waiting, a meditation on the balance between anticipation and presence. Dust swirls faintly in shadowed valleys. Disturbed by subtle currents you imagine brushing across the surface. You sense the fragility of this environment, its delicacy preserved by distance and calm observation. The probe's hovering is gentle, its instruments alive but respectful, tracing the surface with care, almost as if honoring the stories encoded in rock and soil. You feel a deep serenity in this interaction, a soft rhythm of attention and patience that mirrors your own breath. You imagine the first moments of exploration yet to come, the gentle descent of sensors, the capture of images, the quiet measurement of textures and compositions. All of this awaits beyond the pause, but for now, there is serenity. You feel your mind lingering in this stillness, savoring the subtle hum of energy, the careful alignment of motion, the attentive presence of a machine and a planet in quiet dialogue. The pause itself becomes a meditation, a soft preparation for wonder, and as you drift alongside the probe, suspended just above the red surface, you sense the universe holding its breath with you. The planet waits, the instruments wait, and your mind is quiet, open, and ready. The next moment of movement, of discovery, is close, and you feel the gentle anticipation stretching across space, inviting reflection and calm. Chapter 11. Mars in Your Mind. You close your eyes and let Mars bloom inside your mind, soft and expansive. The red plains stretch beneath your imagination like a quiet ocean of dust and stone, rust-colored and infinite. Craters appear as gentle depressions, their rims casting long shadows that fade into valleys and hills. You sense the planet's contours, not as maps or data, but as a landscape you can feel, breathe with, and inhabit mentally. Each detail is calm, precise, and alive, forming a meditative world that exists between thought and observation. Valleys unfold beneath your inner gaze, winding like ancient fingers through plains and mesas. You imagine them carved by water or wind long ago, patterns etched into the surface over billions of years. These channels carry the quiet history of the planet, and in your mind, they become more than shapes. They are pathways of memory, invitations to drift slowly and explore without hurry. You feel a soft connection to these spaces, a sense of reverence for the patience and endurance encoded in stone and soil. The distant horizon stretches far and wide, curving gently in your imagination. Mountains rise like silent guardians, their jagged forms softened by the diffused light you visualize. You sense the passage of time in every ridge and slope, the slow accumulation of wind, dust, and subtle erosion shaping the terrain with infinite care. Your mind begins to align with this rhythm, slowing as you observe, feeling the same patience that the planet has held for millennia. Each breath you take mirrors the gradual unfolding of this world, creating a shared tempo between body and imagination. Craters, some wide and shallow, others deep and shadowed, draw your attention as pockets of quiet reflection. You imagine stepping lightly into their rims, feeling the delicate balance of slope and depth. The surface beneath seems to whisper, hinting at impacts, eruptions, or ancient collisions that left traces for the probe to read and for your mind to interpret. You feel a meditative reverence for these silent witnesses, knowing they hold stories too slow and gentle to demand urgency, yet rich with patience and memory. Dust drifts lazily through valleys and across plains in your visualization. Tiny swirls appear, catching imagined sunlight and creating subtle glimmers across the red surface. You sense the stillness of the airless environment, the quiet choreography of particles that shift and settle, responding to forces invisible yet present. The probe's instruments would record these movements, capturing their precision, and in your mind, you witness the delicate interplay, aware of the harmony between subtle motion and serene stillness. You drift along the edges of ancient riverbeds, tracing their curves with your imagination. You feel the slow energy of water that once carved these channels, the soft persistence of flow that left enduring traces across the landscape. The history is quiet, patient, and intimate. You sense the rhythm of Mars's past in every depression and ridge, a gentle pulse that guides your attention without urgency. You feel a shared calm with the planet, as though your mind and its surface exist in a quiet conversation, bridging time and space. Shadows move slowly across plains, lengthening and shortening with your imagined sun. You notice subtle color, shifts in dust, iron-rich soil, and mineral deposits, each shade forming a meditative palette that fills your inner vision. The horizon blurs softly where distant ridges meet the sky, giving a sense of vastness and continuity. You feel a quiet expansion in your mind, a gentle invitation to drift further into this world, exploring not with urgency, but with attention and serenity. You imagine the probe hovering, capturing these details, translating them into data that will eventually reach Earth. Yet here, in the privacy of your mind, you can see, feel, and reflect upon every nuance. You sense a deep intimacy in this dual perspective. The precision of technology and the softness of imagination intertwined, forming a serene landscape that is both factual and poetic. Every element of the planet becomes a gentle teacher, inviting observation, curiosity, and reflection without pressure. You let the red plains, valleys, and craters settle fully within your awareness. They do not demand action. They only exist, patiently, inviting you to linger in their presence. The pulse of the planet, the rhythm of shadows, the whispers of dust, and the echoes of ancient water blend into a single, calming narrative. You feel a meditative connection, a quiet alignment with Mars, as it has always existed in its patient, enduring silence. And as you float in this inner vision, you sense that Mars is not separate from your mind, but quietly resides within it, waiting for dreams, reflection, and gentle exploration to awaken its stories again. Chapter 12. The Universe listens. You drift gently through the quiet expanse of space, carried alongside the probe, and feel the vastness surrounding you like a soft, breathing presence. The cosmos stretches endlessly, a tapestry of stars, planets, and invisible currents. Yet you feel no urgency, only calm and curiosity. Your mind opens, receptive to the infinite patience of the universe, sensing that even in silence, there is motion, there is life, there is attention. Every photon, every signal, every pulse of energy feels like a gentle heartbeat, connecting you to the cosmos in a soft and meditative rhythm. Mars rests below, its red plains, valleys, and craters fully settled in your imagination. You feel the quiet endurance of the planet, its patient history unfolding slowly, and you sense a subtle intimacy with this distant world. The probe glides silently above, transmitting whispers of information back to Earth. Yet you notice the gap between observation and understanding is bridged not by urgency, but by attention, reflection, and care. You feel part of this bridge, your mind gently following the signals across millions of kilometers, quietly receiving stories that span space and time. The stars above seem to hum faintly, their light reaching you as a soft, endless lullaby. You imagine each one as a distant eye, watching over the universe with quiet constancy, a presence that never demands but only exists. Their glow filters softly into your awareness, filling the spaces between thoughts with wonder and serenity. You sense the slow unfolding of cosmic time, the rhythm of galaxies spinning, planets orbiting, and light traveling in waves that have taken millennia to arrive. Each detail feels deliberate, meditative, and full of gentle possibility. You feel the probe's journey as an extension of your own attention, a shared exploration across space. Each signal it sends, each measurement it records, is a whisper across the void, a careful communication that transforms distance into connection. You sense the intimacy of receiving these fragments of knowledge, not as a rush of information, but as a slow, soothing flow. The universe becomes both teacher and companion, patient in its revelations, allowing you to follow at your own pace, absorbing wonder without urgency. Time itself seems softer here, stretched across light years and moments. You notice how your breath aligns with the slow pulse of cosmic events, how the rhythm of observation mirrors the gentle beat of your own heart. You feel an expansion of awareness, a quiet understanding that exploration is not only movement or discovery, but also patience, reflection, and a meditative attention to presence. The universe listens as much as it is listened to, creating a dialogue of serenity and curiosity that bridges mind and cosmos. You imagine distant suns casting their glow across planets, illuminating textures, shadows, and hidden contours. Light becomes more than illumination. It is a storyteller, painting histories into surfaces, revealing patterns shaped by billions of years. You sense the continuity between these silent narratives and your own mind, the gentle interplay of observation, imagination, and comprehension. There is no rush, only a patient unfolding, a soft rhythm that carries you deeper into calm, wonder, and reverie. The signals from Mars continue to drift across space, tiny pulses of knowledge that arrive steadily, like a quiet stream flowing through the emptiness. You feel connected to these signals, understanding that each bit of information is a story, a gentle sharing between worlds. The vast silence between planets is not empty. It is filled with potential, with attention, with care. You sense the universe holding space for understanding, and you feel your own mind expanding in response, open, calm, and receptive. You drift among the stars, following the path of the probe, sensing the presence of countless worlds beyond your view. Each one holds histories, forces, and energies that are patient, deliberate, and meditative. You feel your awareness stretching into these spaces, lightly touching distant planets, brushing past the whispers of ancient light, and absorbing the subtle lessons carried by the cosmos. Each observation becomes a meditation, a soft acknowledgement that attention is itself a form of exploration. As your mind floats, you feel a profound connection between the probe, Mars, the distant suns, and yourself. You sense the continuum of observation, imagination, and presence, a gentle chain that links consciousness to universe. Curiosity, patience, and wonder weave together, forming a soft, expansive calm that fills every thought and perception. You understand that exploration is not just about discovery. It is about presence, attention, and the quiet unfolding of knowledge across space and time. And as you drift further, carried by the silent hum of cosmic rhythms, the universe feels like a soft, breathing companion. You feel the gentle pull of gravity, the distant glow of suns, the whispers of signals, and the enduring patience of worlds, all flowing together into a lullaby of curiosity and calm. The vastness of space holds you. Your mind opens, and you drift toward sleep, wrapped in the quiet, meditative wonder that exploration is eternal, gentle, and never ending.